Oh, welcome into the Russ Joy Show. I'm Russ Joy. Figure that out because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. Greetings. Season's greetings. What? Ho. What time is it? What time is it? What? It's time for some hockey. It's finally arrived. Flyers home opener. They had their opening weekend. Played the Panthers. Played the Hurricanes. But tonight, at the Xfinity Mobile Arena, your team, your town, your Philadelphia Flyers take the ice against the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers, who they lost to on the road against in the season opener, and now it's also going to be the home opener. But it's fine. It's fine, and I will make a note right off the top of the show in case you somehow missed it. If you did, you may have been living under a rock, but I am here for you before we get into all the hockey shenanigans, before we get into a surprise retirement, before we get into some people being very worried about young Matvei Michkov, before we get into people being very encouraged by young Joel Embiid, before we get to all of that, we have to get a little note in here from the Joy Media Network where you may be aware, if you're a hockey fan, a lot is going on this week. Not only do you have the Russ Joy Show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, but you're also going to have a boatload of shows over on Snow the Goalie. Here's the rundown. Here's the schedule for the week for those who may have missed the news. Not only are we doing Press Row Show, but we've also added a radio show to the mix because we figured we're not busy enough. Let's just do more. And so we are doing a radio show with a lovely station out of Bucks County that you may or may not have heard of before, WBCB. So we'll be on over the air there, as well as wherever you get your episodes of Snow the Goalie, so YouTube, Facebook, X. But we'll be down at the Xfinity Mobile Arena on Monday for Flyers Panthers. Wednesday, we'll be at the Chickies and Pete's in Malvern, PA at 6 o'clock for Snow the Goalie Radio. Thursday, we'll be back at Xfinity Mobile Arena as the Flyers welcome the Jets to town. And then Saturday, also a 6:30 start, we will be down at the Xfinity Mobile Arena as the Flyers welcome the Minnesota Wild to town. It is going to be a wild week, so if you're looking for hockey coverage, we have you covered in so many ways, so make sure you go out of your way to find us. We'll be up by the Oregon in the balcony level of the Xfinity Mobile Arena. You take the private elevator by section 121 through the glass doors. You tell them you're going up to the sportsbook. Some of them might, at this 3 years in, I would hope that the people on the elevator know that there's a show that happens every home game by the Oregon. If they don't, you just tell them you're going all the way up. And there's people up there. There's a show. You're going to go see the show. You're going to go to the old sportsbook, whatever you want to say. You come up, you find us. And if you're in the Malvern area and you can come out and support Snow the Goalie Radio on Thursday, well, that would be greatly appreciated as well. Okay, that's it. That's all. That's a lot of stuff going on. Now, what do we have to talk about today? Do we talk about a horrific Eagles game against the Giants last Thursday? No. I thought about doing it on Friday, and then I realized as I was getting ready to leave Las Vegas, there was no chance I was going to get a show out in time. I instead went and found probably the best coffee roaster in all of Las Vegas. I had maybe the most delightful cup of coffee I've ever had in my entire life. I'll shout that place out. It's called Yaw Farm Coffee Roasters. They make yates, like a latte, yates. And it was like blackberry flavored and oat milk, and it was fantastic. And I absolutely love the place. And the next time I go to Vegas, I will go out of my way. I went 20 minutes out of the way, away from the airport to go there first, pick up some beans, get a coffee, turn right back around and go to the airport. They were fantastic. So if you're ever out in the Vegas area, you go find them. We're not going to talk about the Eagles game from last week. I don't care. I'm not doing it. I haven't even watched the game. I'll be honest. I haven't even watched the Eagles-Giants game yet. It's on the DVR. I will get around to watching it before their next game, but I couldn't be bothered over the weekend to watch it. I would rather live in a little bit of happiness and a little bit of a joy-filled cocoon, right? A little bit of positivity around the Philadelphia Flyers. Yeah, I get it. They didn't win either of the games. I get it. I do. And I'm not saying it's positive because I'm trying to bang the drum of the tank. Because if you've been paying attention to what I've been saying now for the better part of 6 months or so, I am fully convinced that the Flyers think that they are going to be a playoff team. And in them thinking they're going to be a playoff team, I do not expect this team to be in a position at the end of the year where they are fighting for ping pong balls for Gavin McKenna. Now, you might agree with that methodology. You might disagree with that methodology, but that is where I think the Flyers are right now. Is it the best thing for the organization? Is it the best thing for building a long-term Stanley Cup contender? We can argue about it, right? I think it's very clear right now that if you were trying to get this team in nonstop competition for a Stanley Cup, you probably would want at least one more year of a high draft pick. You probably would. And many consider McKenna to be a generational prospect along the lines of a, dare I say, Connor McDavid, the way that some were looking at Connor Bedard. And yet, I just don't think the team is set up to go that way. And I say that for a few reasons. One, we've addressed it on this show, but for those who are new, they're rolling into a season with two backup goalies in Sam Ersson and Dan Vladar. Now, you could look at that and say that's an unintentional tank because if the goalie play is below average at best, you can't win a lot of games in the National Hockey League. And you would be right. Except against Florida and Carolina, Dan Vladar and Sam Ersson, respectively, looked pretty good. Now, I would say Vladar looked better. He earned the season opening start in net. And then, of course, the home opener tonight, we're in the same boat as we were before, right? We are in the same exact boat where Dan Vladar will get the start. So an interesting place, right? You would think that typically you have your guys like your Ersons of the world that have had big starts for this team in the past, and he's not in net tonight. Is that Rick Tocchet trying to send a message? I don't know. Ersson didn't have a great preseason. We all know that. Vladar didn't really see a lot of action in the preseason. His opening performance against the Panthers, to me, earned him another start. I had no issue with Ersson getting the look in net against Carolina. You come home now, and we'll see how the chips fall. We'll see if Vladar has similar success against the Panthers. Now, one of the things that's been noted about the way that Rick Tocchet's team is going to play, as opposed to John Tortorella's Flyers, is that you're going to see more shots on net. You're going to see less blocked shots, more shots from the outside, from the wings. And what that'll ultimately lead to is a higher shots against total, which Brian Boucher said during the first game is actually kind of nice if you're a goalie, because that means your save percentage is going to be higher, right? Like if you only see 23 shots and you give up 3 goals, that's a bad save percentage. If you see 36 shots and give up 3, it's a significantly better save percentage. Now, stylistically, have the Flyers looked that different? Yes and no. Have the Flyers given a lot for people to grab hold of and say, this is a totally new era of orange? Not necessarily. Are there things that I'm frustrated with just looking at the lineup? Yes. Are there line combinations right now that I'm not thrilled with? Yes. And one of them has to do with Matvei Michkov, who has now been juggled from one game to the next. And on Saturday, it was brought up that Michkov didn't look like himself, that Michkov looked slow. And some were saying not just one step slow, maybe 2 steps slow, 3 steps slow. And then there was a little clip floating around today that many of you may or may not have seen. And it was Biz over on Spit and Chicklets. And he threw out the idea that Michkov came into camp out of shape, which would seem to be a little bit concerning, right? We saw pictures of the team in the offseason, and there was a thought maybe Michkov looked a little bit more stacked. Let's say he looked a little bit more stacked. And now seeing him in 2 games not look like he has a lot of pep in his step, there was a question going around of whether or not Michkov is actually in shape for the season. Obviously, that would not be a good way to make a first impression on a coach in Rick Tocchet. But first, we are going to go out. Let's listen to what Biz had to say over on Spit and Chicklets. Remember, Chicklets is the same show that said there were coaches in Russia who thought that Michkov was like a piece of shit or something, and that he was arrogant and no one wanted to play with him. So there's certainly a bit of bias. But let's go over to Chicklets really quick, and let's just listen really quickly to what Biz had to say.
Little birdies everywhere, and I'm hearing that he didn't come in great shape.
He's out of shape. He's out of shape.
That's really?
Yeah.
I heard
Not
that.
from talk,
You heard that too?
No, not from talk, but I heard he's out of shape.
Yeah, so
that's Biz talking, saying he's out of shape.
Obviously, that's people are aware
we
of that.
We interviewed Talk what was it, like 3 weeks ago?
That was before training camp.
No, that was I think that was
who did you hear that
August,
from? You got
early
you got
September.
Birdie? Who told you?
I got Birdie. I got birdies in Philly.
We're just going to stop there. Remember, that's the same show that wanted to crucify Anthony Sanfilippo. And when we said send the link, they never did. Okay, it's fine. They have a very successful show. If you're taking Paul Bissonnette's take on Spit and Chicklets' gospel, I would warn you that you've probably been duped by a false prophet. Now, are there times that Biz has real insight? Sure. And can you look at Matvei Michkov's first 2 games? And I saw somebody was pulling explosive bursts on Twitter. Right? That's where we've reached now. His explosive burst total was low in the first 2 games. And that might be fair, right? Like if you're looking for some kind of correlation between what the eye test is showing you and a little bit of a data point that says, yes, in fact, he's not playing fast, that's an okay one to go to. But if you're looking after 2 games and your big takeaway is Matvei Michkov looks fat or Matvei Michkov looks slow, it has been 2 games. I think we need to pump the brakes. I had somebody texting me today that I respect their hockey knowledge. I respect their takes on hockey for the most part. We don't see eye to eye. This person was like, he does look slow. He does look out of shape. My question back was, where were you guys, you people? What do you mean, you people? What do you mean, you people? Where were you people in the preseason? Because I don't remember a ton of questions, comments, and concerns about Matvei Michkov's endurance, about his speed, about his conditioning. But after 2 lackluster performances, including one against the Carolina Hurricanes, where he did not see the ice in overtime, now all of a sudden, everyone's come out of the woodwork. Oh, he does look slow. He does look slower than I expected. He does, I don't know. Does he have a little bit of a visceral belly fat going on there? Is that what I'm seeing through his sweater and his equipment? Everybody just needs to chill out. Can we all just take a deep breath? Right? This was going on all weekend. And then there was a little bit of clarification today because Rick Tocchet addressed the media about Matvei Michkov. Because, of course, the media trying to get an answer. It's like, all right, what the hell's going on? Right? Charlie O'Connor had the transcription. We'll go out to Charlie O'Connor. We always credit our sources over here, right? We always credit where things come from on this show because it's the right thing to do. Damn it. Charlie O'Connor was down at Flyers practice, which happened at Xfinity Mobile Arena instead of at the Flyers training facility down in Voorhees. But here's Charlie O'Connor's transcription of a quote from Rick Tocchet earlier today regarding Michkov and regarding how he looks so far. Tocchet apparently said that Michkov was dealing with an ankle injury over the summer that affected his offseason training, and then noted that he's fully healthy now. Here's the quote. So he's a little bit behind the 8 ball when it comes to that, but it's something we're going to correct. End quote. Are we okay? Are all of the conspiracy theorists, are they going to take a deep breath now? Oh, Matvei Michkov hasn't been like downing 3 buckets of KFC. That's good. Oh, Matvei Michkov hasn't like been serving himself, 4 portions of borscht while he was in his native land playing in the best of the KHL versus the best of the NHL game. Remember, do we all remember watching Matvei Michkov play in some exhibition tournaments over in Russia during the summer? He attempted a Michigan after saying in an interview, hey, we'll not be trying to do the Michigan anytime soon. And then 2 days later, he's doing a Michigan in an exhibition game. Can we all just chill out? Can we all just take a second to fucking breathe? All right. This Flyers team, I am convinced if the goalies don't totally fall apart, which is a gigantic if, massive if, a bigger than Ivan Fedotov if, and that's a big man. If the goalies don't fall apart, I firmly believe this Flyers team has enough talent to be a bubble playoff team. Is that ultimately the best thing for them going forward? I don't know. But I think at this point they have enough talent to get into a playoff spot. Now, they might get absolutely, it might be a train wreck in the first round. It probably would be. But at this point, you have enough talent that you want to believe in, right? What do we know after 2 games? The Forster, Cates, Brink line is damn good. It is a nightmare to play against. It is probably the best third line in all of hockey. And in fact, it might be the Flyers' best line. And if you remember back to last year, there was a good chunk late in the season where that looked like the Flyers' best line night in and night out. And Torts loved it, and apparently Tocchet does too. They're doing a great job. Hustle plays, busting their asses. Okay, we know that. Does Sean Couturier look significantly better? No. Is that a disappointment? Yes. Right? I think we all know that in order for this Flyers team to really be able to compete night in and night out, you need Sean Couturier at like 85% of what his peak powers were. I'm not so sure that we're even like at the 70% yet. Doesn't mean that it won't happen. I do think that eventually you'll get to see a better, maybe loosened up Sean Couturier as the season goes on. Am I thrilled with Owen Tippett's play? No. Do I think that the Owen Tippett of it all is going to ultimately prove to be a truly dynamic 35-goal scorer in this league? No. Would I make Owen Tippett the first forward available in a trade, a realistic forward in a realistic trade for a guy like Bo Byram? Yes. If I were Danny Briere and I looked at my blue line right now, would I feel good? No. I wouldn't. No. Now, Emil Andre is going to be in the lineup on Monday night. First time. He was sent down at the end of training camp. A lot of people got upset about it. I thought it was a mistake. But what do we know? Flyers have a lot of small defenders, right? They have a small defenseman. They have Cam York, not exactly big. They have Jamie Drysdale, not exactly big. And Brad Shaw on Snow the Goalie last year said, can't have too many small defensemen if you're trying to be a cup contender. The positive for the Flyers is they are not a cup contender, so I don't necessarily know that that has to apply to them. Emil Andre is going to play. This is his opportunity to prove it was a mistake to send him down. It is his opportunity to prove that he belongs in the lineup over a guy like, I don't know, Igor Zamula. Why do I bring up Igor Zamula? I just want to, just really quickly, there was a thing that came out over the weekend. It actually had to do with Mr. Zamula. It did. It had to do with Mr. Zamula. So Igor Zamula, let's get this straight right off the jump. Igor Zamula stinks. There is no middle ground. There is no truly redeeming quality about Igor Zamula's play that makes us say, you know what? If the Flyers gave him an opportunity on the power play, that Igor Zamula, he'd be quite dynamic for this team. I bet you Igor Zamula would be one of the best offensive-minded defensemen on a power play that we've seen in a decade. Why do I jokingly say all this? Because Zamula's agent talked to a Russian outlet over the weekend. And that agent seems to believe that Zamula is a much better player than he actually is. Now, I am going to give you a caveat here. I did not translate this myself. And I know how translations work. I speak languages. It is what I do. So I am very aware that you do not always get perfect translation between first language and targeted language in the translating. So we are going to show you a translated version of transcript, but it is not perfect. Okay, we can all just take a second here. It is not going to be perfect. It is good translation. I would like to believe it, but maybe not perfect. Okay. Let's go out to comments from Zamula's agent, who believes that young Igor, he is good defenseman. He could be great defenseman if they just give him opportunity. He has no opportunities. Did you notice they don't play Zamula at all? He's actually lots better than you peasants believe. All right, let's go out to this Zamula quotes. Okay. This is from his agent. Should I continue doing this in a really weird Russian accent? Because I could. Maybe I should. The interviewer asks, what do you expect from Zamula in the new NHL season? Zamula's agent, quote, I'm looking forward to Igor being given the chance to blossom and play at his level, the way he's capable of playing. He can't fully realize his potential because he's not given the opportunity. He's forced into a box. We always look forward to that opportunity. He's not given the opportunity. He's not a good defenseman. Like, he's probably a number 7 defenseman. I would actually say that if you want him to play at his level, the chance to blossom and play at his level, then he should be playing with the Phantoms because his level is AHL, not NHL. He's not a very good defenseman. I mean, this isn't a very good team, and it certainly doesn't have a very good blue line. And it's not like he's getting top pair minutes. Like, this is a lucky to be a third pair defenseman kind of guy in Zamula. Okay. And then, again, translation's not perfect. Interviewer. They don't let him express himself and play his style of hockey. I'd like to express myself if I may. I'm a better hockey player than this. Igor, why are you speaking with Scottish accent? I don't know. Okay. Yes, he is quite good power play player and good puck handler. It's tough when he's limited tactically. We'll see. He's a team player, so he always does what his coach tells him to do. The main thing is for him to play at a good level. All right, so I'll agree with a few things. Zamula seems like a team guy. Zamula does not seem like a malcontent. Zamula seems like a genuinely good dude. And it does seem like last year Zamula was not only trying to juggle his responsibilities on the ice, but was playing as the translator of sorts for John Tortorella and Matvei Michkov. He's not a good defenseman. Like, that's legitimately insane. He has not had the opportunity to play at his level. Yes, he has. What are you talking about? Come on. Come on. He's not a good defenseman. He's not. Is he passable in a fill-in situation? Sure. Could he be a number 7 defenseman on a team? Sure. Could he get the occasional game playing third pair minutes and like not totally kill you? I guess. But there are games where like you watch Zamula just get like, he's like a turnstile, right? Guys just blow past him. He ends up on the ice. He looks dazed and confused. Again, seems like a lovely guy. He might actually be a lovely chap, but he's not a good defenseman. And the notion that he's being limited, like the Mark Wahlberg quote, right? I'm a peacock. You got to let me spread my wings and fly. The idea that Zamula is somehow this peacock that needs to spread his wings and fly is nonsensical at best. He's been given plenty of opportunities. If I'm Emil Andre and I read those quotes, I go, is this guy serious? Is he serious? Really? Because Emil Andre is a better defenseman than Igor Zamula. He's smaller. Zamula fits the bill if they're looking for size on the blue line, which is a thing that they are often looking at. But Zamula is not a better defenseman than Emil Andre. So as of right now, the plan is Zamula comes out of the lineup tonight. Emil Andre's in. Now, other things that we have to get to from the early part of the Flyers season. Vladar, as I mentioned at the top of the show, looked good. Sam Ersson looked okay against Carolina. There were some defensive breakdowns, 1 or 2 goals where you go, all right, I don't know if anybody's going to be able to make that stop. We can also talk about the fact that the Flyers got screwed a little bit on Saturday, which is not a homer take. But Travis Sanheim crashes the net. Goalie comes out and actually initiates contact, trying to shove him away. And in doing so, they get tied up. Bobby Brink, pops the biscuit into the basket. And you start to feel like, oh, Flyers pick up a massive win on the road, an incredible win on the road. And you go, all right, Fly guys. Loss against the Panthers that was close. Big win on the road. And then it gets called back. And the Flyers ultimately lose the game in overtime to Carolina. I want to get to what is now one of my favorite hockey quotes in a long time. This is the kind of thing that gives me hope that this Flyers team is going to turn into something, if not this year, then going forward. And one of the guys who could very well be one of the best quotes on the team is Bobby Brink. And after Bobby Brink loses the overtime winner, and then, play resumes and it goes the other way, Carolina wins. This is Bobby Brink post-game on the decision to wave off his goal and how he felt about it. Here's Bobby Brink.
I'm guessing it's because Sanheim ran into the goalie. But in my humble opinion, it's the wrong call. But they made the rules, so what do I know?
There are so many good moments in that quote. Let's start that one over.
I'm guessing it's because Sanheim ran into the goalie.
Deadpan.
But in my humble opinion, it's the wrong call. But
in my humble opinion, love that, good.
They made the rules, so.
They made the rule referring to the fact that it came from the review room at the league office, not the referees in attendance.
What do I know?
What do I know? Beautiful. Wonderful stuff. So, there's some Flyers recappage for you. Now, we will come back on Wednesday with more Flyers talk because it's Flyer season, baby. We're going to be talking about the Flyers pretty much every show. And we'll check in on how Matvei Michkov looks. If Michkov has a good showing on Monday, tonight, in the home opener, well, then hopefully a lot of the weirdos and the psychos on Twitter will calm down a little bit, take a little deep breath, maybe realize that we don't have to react to everything as if the world is burning. And if he looks bad at home, well, then that'll be a conversation as well. Now, we do have a little bit of context, right? We showed the quote. Rick Tocchet said that there was an ankle injury in the offseason, so he was a little bit behind the 8 ball, but he's healthy now. Cool. Let's see how it plays out. I'm in this really weird place where I have spent years and years and years, right, bemoaning the direction of the team. I was willing to go along with Ron Hextall's full rebuild. I was totally with it until the draft results were piss poor. Things started going sideways, and it felt like they were never going to pull the nose up on it. During the Fletcher years, I was always on that team and that front office for making Band-Aid decisions. Like, you had a massive leak on a dam and you would try to put a Band-Aid on it, and then it would pop right back off. And then eventually the hole would expand, and then eventually the water comes pouring through and you drown. The Fletcher era felt like a disaster. It felt like patchwork move after patchwork move to try to make the playoffs to save a GM's job. Danny Briere, since he's been in this position, has had some ups and he's had some downs. He's been able to move some significant contracts. He's been able to bring in useful assets. He's been able to kind of stock the cupboard in some way with legit talent. You have your Matvei Michkov of the world. Porter Martone looks like a really intriguing player who may be up here at the end of the season once he's done his collegiate season. You have an Alex Bump who didn't exactly show out in the best way in the preseason, but is a guy that they're very high on and they think is going to be significantly better than where he was drafted. Defensively, some question marks. They have restocked the farm system with goalie prospects. We've been talking about Bjarnason. We've been talking about Zavragan. It feels like there's some hope. You might not like Alexei Kolosov after how last year went. Kolosov is still young enough that he could turn out to be a starter in this league, maybe a backup in this league. On the whole, I would say pretty good job. Now, if you're looking at the Cutter Gauthier situation, clearly something went awry between the time he was drafted by Chuck Fletcher and the Flyers felt the need to operate under the shadow of and the darkness of night to move him out of town. Something clearly went wrong. Was it Danny Briere's fault? Was it John Tortorella's fault? Was it a combination of the two? Was it divine intervention that led to Gauthier not wanting to be here? I don't know. What I do know is if you take a look at a couple of moves and a couple of decisions, I tweeted about this on Sunday, it makes you kind of go, I hope they didn't muck those two things up. One is the Gauthier trade that brought back Jamie Drysdale. If Drysdale can end up being the lead guy, the quarterback on the top power play unit, and can look passable at even strength, it probably takes some sting out. Gauthier is going to be a really good player. I don't know if he's going to be an elite level player, but he's going to be a very good player. So right now, on merit, you lost that trade, or you're in the process of losing that trade. Doesn't mean that it can't change. But as of right now, I'd say Gautier's probably got a better future ahead of him than Drysdale does. Okay. The one that really gets you is the Jetlachenko draft. Because Jetlachenko was taken over Zeev Buium. And the problem there is that Zeev had the same agent that Gauthier had. And so there are questions, and they still remain. Like, I still talk to people who are around hockey who openly ask the same question. Did the Flyers pass on a potentially dynamic young defenseman because he had the same agent as Gauthier and the Flyers didn't want to get burned again? It's entirely possible. Now, I talked to somebody who knows Zeev Buium pretty well, right? Said Zeev is a really good kid. He would not have done what Gauthier did. Even if by some happenstance, the agent said, oh, you can force your way out of there. Zeev would have stuck to his guns. He would have done whatever the Flyers wanted. He would have played at the NHL level. He would have gone down. Whatever the Flyers would have wanted, he would have done. I look at that and I go, okay, if on balance, if we're fair, Gauthier and Zeev probably have a higher ceiling than what you have right now in Drysdale and Lutsenko. Things can always change. Maybe Jet Lutsenko takes 2 years to really develop, and he figures out how to score. And you add that to some really elite speed, and you add that to some really strong vision and playmaking ability, and maybe 2 years from now, Gauthier struggles. And you say, hey, if we're looking at it forward versus forward, Lutsenko's better. All right, cool. We'll come back to it. Right now, that's the only thing, the only real blemish on the Danny Briere, as I dubbed it, are those 2 moves. You could make the case that the Gauthier thing was totally out of his hands. I don't know if it was, but you could make the case that it was entirely out of his hands, and so he tried to make the best of a bad situation, and it's not his fault. Okay. If that's not the case, then it's not ideal. The Lutsenko thing is the one that like stands out to me as that was not a good pick at the time. There was at least one player on the board that was better, at least where I'm at. And the problem with Jet Lutsenko is he can't get sent down to the AHL. In a perfect world, the policy that's supposed to go into effect about 19-year-old players being able to be assigned to the AHL as a one-time exception, that would have gone into effect this year. It would have applied to Lutsenko's league, and Lutsenko would be playing with the Phantoms this year. Because I think ultimately you could get a much better developed Jet Lutsenko coming back to this team later in the season if he got to play with the Phantoms. But instead, when his time is up with the Flyers, and presumably it will be up, he'll go back to Guelph, where he probably will not develop nearly as much as this team would want him to. Is there a chance that they could keep Lutsenko here? Yes. He's supposed to be back in the lineup tonight, just like he was on Saturday, as is Nikita Grabenkin, everybody's favorite pit bull. If Lutsenko continues to impress, if he puts together a really solid string of games and he doesn't look out of place and he's not getting muscled off the puck consistently, will they keep him here and think, even if he's not in the lineup every night, it's still more beneficial for him to be around this team, practicing with pros, practicing with the pro coaching staff? It's possible. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it might happen. We'll see tonight. I'm interested to see like where things go. I am not down on the Flyers. I've been down on the Flyers before. I'm not down on them right now. I actually think that the people who are like kind of lighting themselves on fire and screaming in the streets, I think those people are kind of nuts right now. But that's just me. You know who else I think is kind of nuts? I think Max Kepler might be nuts. Because today the news broke, Rob Thomson is going to be back as the Phillies manager for next year. We kind of knew that was going to happen, right? And by the way, I know that there were a lot of comments. I didn't get to them. I am sorry. They've been going on the screen down here. So yeah. Let me just go out here real quick. Chris Freed says, has a heckler section been added for the Press Row Show? You can always heckle from where you're at. Linda Joseph says, Snow, the goalie Press Row Show is going to be lit. Will Ant call Russ an idiot pregame or in the first 2 intermissions? Probably all of the above. Amadeo noted something here that I'm not happy about. I will just address this. As many of you are aware, my calling card in recent years has become the mustache, the Rustache. And you might be wondering to yourself, Russ, did you shave your face because it's the start of a new season? Hope springs eternal. Shave it up. No. I accidentally, as I was shaving, I did the trimmer. And I came in a little bit too far over here. And I realized that in order for me to make it symmetrical to the other side, it was going to be getting a little bit too close to a certain little dude who started annexing countries in Europe. And I said, well, that ain't going to look right. And I figured, can I leave? Is there a way for me to fan the mustache out a little bit on the other side? So yeah, it would be like off center and look weird for a little bit, but it would grow back. And I said, nah, shaving it off. And so here we are, baby face. God help us all. It's awful. It's awful. Let me see. There are a couple of other things over here. Zach O says, oh yes. Iris Flyers get a home opener tonight. Will we get a jersey reveal? That's a good question. So there was a thing going on over on Twitter as well. There's a local artist who apparently is behind the shirt giveaway that's going out to all fans who attend the game tonight at the Xfinity Mobile Arena. But there was a hint in it that they might be bringing back the black alternates, the black alternate jerseys that people have wanted from like the 90s. I hope so. NHL teams have been kind of like dropping these alternate jerseys that they didn't announce ahead of time. They've just been showing up at their home openers wearing these new alternates. I hope we get a brand new like retro throwback black jersey for the Flyers. That would be pretty cool. Let's see. I know there's a whole lot of stuff here. All right. I think I touched on almost all of the stuff. So I'm going to skip the other comments. No offense. Sorry, everybody. We'll get there on Wednesday. I'll do a better job. Quote Andy Reid. I'm going to do a better job. I'll do a better job with that. Yeah. Comes back to me. At times yours. But I think it's going to be the black sweaters. That'd be really cool if it happens. Black with the orange piping, right? I hope that's what we get, but I'm not sure. Amadeo's right, though. They did drop a 90s filter video with Gritty today, so it feels like they're pointing in that direction. JH, I have bad news for you. Yes, as I was saying a little bit ago, Rob Thomson is back for the 2026 season. I don't know how to feel about it. I feel like this is going to trend toward they're going to run it back again. They might not run it back with Schwarber, but I think there's a very good chance Real Muto's back. I have to imagine they'll move Castellanos. They'll probably try to move Bohm again, but I feel like for the most part, they're going to mostly run it back. There's the Japanese player that is supposed to be posted, and the Phillies were thought to be one of the favorites for him. The second that a Japanese player signs for a team that's not on the West Coast, or maybe the Cubs, then I'll believe it. The next time the Phillies sign a highly touted Japanese player is the first time I will believe that they are actually in the mix on signing a highly touted Japanese player. I'm not so sure it's going to happen. If that does happen, it would seem the money that's going to take to bring him in is probably going to cost you Kyle Schwarber. There are other people who believe that Kyle Tucker is going to hit that free agent market and that maybe he'll be in play for the Phillies. I'm also not sure about that. But it really feels like Dave Dombrowski's going to hit us with one of those, well, we were a good team. We like our team. We think it's a good team. Andrew Painter could be available to be on the opening night roster. Now, I'm not saying that he will be, but I'm saying that he could be available. There's a difference there. There's a difference. I could see that happening again and us going into the 2026 season saying, well, they did at some point find themselves on pace to win 100 games. They just happened to have another shortcoming in the playoffs again. You should run it back. You know what I realized today? The way that people talk about Rob Thomson being a regular season manager and not a good playoff manager reminded me of the discourse around like Mike Budenholzer in the NBA until he finally broke through with the Bucks. But remember, for years and years and years, Budenholzer was this really great regular season coach with like the Hawks, and then they would get to the playoffs and he'd kind of puke all over himself. Is there a fair comparison between Topper and Coach Bud? I don't know. I'm not totally sold that Rob Thomson can't be a guy who pushes the right buttons in the playoffs. Ultimately, I don't think you can fault Rob Thomson for Trey Turner coming up small, for Bryce Harper coming up small, for Kyle Schwarber only coming up big in one game. It just happened to be the game that they won. That's not on Rob Thomson. Some of the late game pitching decisions, those decisions are on him. But we can also point out at the same time with this, two things can be true. He also didn't have a lot of great arms to go to in the bullpen late in games. And that, my friends, comes down to roster construction, and that is Dave Dombrowski. But it does feel like there's a good chance they're going to roll it, or they're going to run it back, which sucks. Now, I mentioned that somebody could be crazy. And the reason that I said the guy's like potentially insane is because Max Kepler, of all people, who had a really, really rocky start to the season, had a much better second half. And I would say on the whole, probably ended up being better thought of by the fan base at the end. He was quoted by Destiny Legardo as saying that he actually would like to come back. Believe it or not, Max Kepler, who was through a lot with the Phillies this year, he wants to be back. Let's go to the quote. Quote, yeah, I'd love to be back. It's for the front office to decide. I really didn't know what free agency would entail going into this year or signing with the Phils, but having experienced this whole year with this group of guys has probably been at the very top of my career, just from the memories that I created with them. I have so many to break down and process, but just a great group of guys, such a variety of characters that really moved me in a lot of different ways. If it were up to me, I'd be back. Now, Kepler, early in the season, if you remember, almost like Igor Samula's agent, was kind of like, well, if I had the opportunity to play the way that I expected to, the way that it was kind of described to me in free agency, I think I'd be more productive. And then we all kind of said, well, Max Kepler, you haven't really done enough to be an everyday guy. I think it's interesting that Kepler says he wants to be back. I think it's also very notable that he's talking about the locker room, that he's talking about the clubhouse. He's talking about the guys. That seems to be the thing, right? It's always that the vibes with the team are great. They all love each other. They all care for each other. They're all there to pick one another up. And I didn't get to do this on Thursday night's show. I will give Nick Castellanos his flowers because I didn't realize it in the moment. But in the moment where Ryan Kerkering throws the ball away at home plate, game ends, all that, a lot of guys walk off the field. That includes the former MVP and the face of the franchise, Bryce Harper. They're walking off the field. There's kind of like a nasty stare back. Is it at Kerkering? Is it at the Dodgers? I don't know. Nick Castellanos sprinted in from the outfield to be there for Kerkering, to be there for his teammate, so that he wasn't walking back to the dugout, beating himself up by himself. And I have to tell you that in the midst of a very season out of Castellanos, and after some quotes that I absolutely tore into him for about it being, harder to play at home and you don't want to have to fear being reprimanded for, subpar play. All of those things taken into account, the human level of what Nick Castellanos brought to that clubhouse, I think was like perfectly encapsulated in that decision to run in from the outfield and be there for his teammate in probably the lowest point of his career. So I do think it's worth giving a little tip of the cap to Castellanos for how he held up his end of the bargain as a teammate. I think it's kind of the right thing to do. Okay. So Kepler wants to be back. You know who doesn't want to be back? Za'Darius Smith. Jay Glazer reported earlier today that word was getting around that Za'Darius Smith was going to retire from the NFL. And then Za'Darius Smith went over to Instagram and he confirmed he out. He's done. So Za'Darius Smith, who was seen as a massive addition to this team, who overperformed, I'd say probably for the most part, overperformed expectations. He's done. He's done with the Eagles. He's out. He's retiring. Let's get to his post over on Instagram. It's a long one. We're not going to read the whole thing. But he says, I knew this day would come, but now that it's here, I'm feeling many emotions I never expected. And then you get everything. And then you get all the things about, growing and evolving as a man, yada, yada, yada. We get a nice biblical quote. To the fans, the biggest thank you of all to every fan from each organization I represented. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everything. From wearing my jerseys, collecting my cards, sending letters, sharing your opinions, good and tough ones alike, and most importantly, showing love. I felt it all. As I step into the newest season of my life, please know this game has meant the world to me. The lessons learned on and off the field will stay with me forever. It's a very nice retirement. Why the fuck did he retire now? Right? That's where your head has to go. Za'Darius Smith was having a productive season for this Eagles team that up until 2 weeks ago was undefeated and looked like they could be on a crash course with the Super Bowl again. Back-to-back losses, a lot of distractions after each game, and then a curb stomping by the Giants on Thursday Night Football. Za'Darius Smith is out. Now, I have two theories, and they could both be wrong. I will admit they can both be wrong. First theory, the locker room is in such disrepair that a dude who was ready to be done and realized there probably weren't that many other teams to go to said, you know what, this ain't worth it. The stress of being around this team just isn't worth it. I'm done. That's option one. And I'm sure Sports Talk Radio is going to turn that into the argument if they haven't done so already. Option number two, Za'Darius Smith, who's not exactly the youngest guy on the roster, right? I'm trying to think of how old he is. I'm looking over real quick. He's 33. He's an edge rusher. Is there a possibility that Za'Darius Smith found out you might get dinged, might get suspended for performance-enhancing drugs? It's possible. I'm not saying it is. I have no insight. I have no inside knowledge. I am not saying that is what was happening. But at 33 years old, a guy who came into this team saying he had no intentions of retiring, and I'm going to shout out Broads because Broads was the one who kind of tipped me off to it. We're actually going to pull the video here. When Za'Darius Smith signed with the Eagles, he mentioned that it's not only the culture and it's not only the ability to win, but he also mentioned like he's not exactly close to retiring. This is Za'Darius Smith. I don't know when this came from, but this was like back when he signed with the Eagles. Let's go over to Za'Darius Smith. I mean, it had to be like, what, a month ago? Talking about how much he had left in his career.
Were you always planning on playing this season, or was that a consideration?
Oh, no, I was playing for sure. Yeah. I'm not hanging it up yet. I see where you was going with that. But nah, man, I got a lot more left in the tank. I played football. I started my senior year in high school. So it's like I'm still young in the game, man. So, yeah, I got a lot more left. Don't put that one on me.
So he says that he had a lot. He still had a lot left in the tank. He noted that he started football his senior year. So it's not like he's been playing his entire career and there's just like there's no tread left on the tires. He told you when he signed that he thought he had a lot left to give. And now after back-to-back losses, he's out. Now, I'm going to put on my conspiracy hat. My assumption is that it could have been something performance-enhancing related. Maybe there was going to be a suspension and he didn't want to have his name tainted with whatever it was, right? Could have been anything. It could have been a violation of any NFL policy, and he could have been looking at a suspension. Possible. I'm not saying that's what happened. I'm just throwing out that as a potential hypothetical, right? That could have happened. I wouldn't blame him for retiring if that's the case. If it's because the locker room is so bad, obviously that is a tremendous concern because this team is already thin at that position. And to lose a guy who has been impactful is crazy. I saw people obviously throwing out the idea, right, immediately. Oh, Brandon Graham. It's time to bring Brandon Graham back out of retirement. I'm not so sure. That just seems kind of weird. I don't know. Now, Lawrence Fine could be right. Says might be personal reasons. It could be. And so we are going to extend, not that he cares, not that it matters, not that he's ever going to say, we will extend to Za'Darius Smith. If there's something personal going on with his family, with friends, whatever, and there's something more important away from football that he needs to tend to, and that's why he retired, all the best. Obviously, the worst case scenario here is he's retiring because he said, this locker room is so screwed up. I am not wasting the rest of the year dealing with this shit. That would be bad, very bad. It doesn't seem like the defensive side of the team is where issues lie, right? Like where we're seeing a lot of the issues, right? Kind of manifesting publicly or on the offensive side of the team. I imagine that it's not that. I could be wrong. But I'm not sure. So Za'Darius Smith had a nice little run here, and he gone. Okay. I'm going to try to end the show on positivity. We started talking about the Flyers. I'm a lot higher on the Flyers than it seems like anybody else is. And I'm going to take you to a place that you'd have to be high to believe in. And that's Joel Embiid. However, the Sixers held their blue-white scrimmage in front of fans. And we're going to throw out to this really quickly because I told myself, I said, I was ready for the Phillies to hurt me again in the playoffs. And they did. And you guys know that I love my basketball. And I wear the fan cap for the Sixers, right? And so I know how this can go. And we've already seen, like, Jared McCain got hurt again. And it's only a matter of time before, like, VJ Edgecombe finds out that, like, he's allergic to oxygen or something, or he like, ruptures his spleen and then has to retire, right? Because it's just the rookie curse for the Sixers. But I saw this going around, and I said to myself, am I willing to get hurt by the Sixers again? Let's just take a look. Here's Maxey to Embiid, back to Maxey, back to Embiid, bang. Now, there's another clip that was going around of Embiid dunking, but look at this. Maxey, Embiid, back to Maxey, back to Embiid, up and under. And I said to myself, I am ready to be hurt by the Sixers again. I am. It is a terrible Eastern Conference. If the Sixers can somehow load manage the hell out of Joel Embiid, if they can somehow salvage some good version of Paul George, I think they have a chance in the Eastern Conference. And I am going to stay there. And I am going to be told what a nimrod I am. And I'm going to have Ford on me all the time saying Embiid will probably play less than 50% of the regular season. Not a hot take. I know I'm insane. I get that I'm insane. But I believe. I'm starting to believe just a little bit. I'm starting to believe in the Sixers just a wee bit. All right, it's time to end. Just a reminder, I know I brought this up at the top of the show, but if you join the show late, if you are new to this show, if you are new to all of the shenanigans and the insanity that happen around here, if you are looking for Flyers coverage, not only do you get Flyers coverage here on the Russ Joy Show every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, along with the biggest stories in Philadelphia sports, but if you are a grade A hockey fan, I will refer you back to this. We have 3 episodes of the Press Row Show happening this week. Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, all with a 6:30 start on YouTube, Facebook, and X. Wednesday, we'll be in Malvern for Snow the Goalie Radio at Chickies and Pete's. Come out, find us, have a chat, talk some puck, have some crab fries, have a delightful evening. All right. So there's a lot going on this week. I hope to spend a lot of time with you all in the comments. Maybe I'll see some of you tonight at the game up in the balcony level by the organ where we have the Press Row Show set up. Chat there tonight and Thursday and Saturday. Maybe I'll see you at Chickies and Pizza Malvern on Wednesday for Snow the Goalie Radio. If not, I will at the very least see you back here on the Russ Joy Show on Wednesday. Until then, this has been the Russ Joy Show, and I've been Russ Joy, but you knew that already because you're smart. It's also the name of the show. Have a great day, everybody. I will talk to each and every one of you Wednesday here on the Russ Joy Show. Bye now.